go, EI. And everybody will go, what's an EI?
I saw all those letters behind Antonius's name down there. Yeah, no, I don't want BS back there.
You got numbers in the front of your, or letters in the front of your name.
Yeah, MR.
MR.
Well, see, that's not fair. Yeah, but you have three of them.
No.
No, you just in S?
Yes.
No, sometimes they're still anyway.
Who's this, Chris? This is Chris coming.
Yeah, that's Chris Swan.
Yes, I would say so.
It's going to go fairly fast.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to this special City Commission meeting today, Thursday, June 29th, 2017 at 5 p.m. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and our friend Mr. Leon Miller has agreed to offer the opening invocation. If you would please stand.
May we pray. Our Father, our God, we come to say thanks, O Heavenly Father, for this day that you have given to us, O Heavenly Father. O Heavenly Father, we ask you to look up under this city hall today with the responsibility that lies on their shoulders, O Heavenly Father. O Heavenly Father, we hope that the decision that they make will please this government, please this community, and that this community will be pleased with the city government, O Heavenly Father. O Heavenly Father, again, we said thanks for all of the blessings that you have stored up on this state that we've never seen before. In thy name, for Christ's sake, ever. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Before I move to item number 3, I just wanted to make a comment of community interest. Many of you may have been following the story of our little boy from Lynn Haven who is having a kidney transplant. His mother is the donor, and they are in Orlando as I speak. And they are both doing well. That's J.D. Stark. He's a first grader at Lynn Haven Elementary School. The mom is Angela. And he did have a scary moment last night in ICU. They had to take him back to surgery, but they got the problem corrected. And the last I heard, everything's going well. So I just wanted to let you know I was particularly happy about that because he's one of our own children. Item number 3. These are the mayor and commission interviews with the city manager candidates. The format for how this will go during the meeting. All day long today, each of the commissioners and myself, we've interviewed each of these candidates individually under the same roof, but in different rooms, separate from each other. And at this time, all the candidates are in a room outside, so they cannot hear the questions of the other candidates. The reason for that, if you've ever watched the Miss Universe pageant, is so if the same person gets the same question, that they don't have more time to think about it before the other person. So that's the thinking behind that. Not that I'm comparing Mr. Schubert, the city manager, to Miss Universe by any means. That was a joke. So after each candidate comes forward, we will give the commission an opportunity if there's any missed question that they might have wanted to ask that they didn't ask or would like to ask at this time in the public, they may. After that, I will give the public an opportunity to ask any questions that you would like to ask of the candidate, and then we'll give each candidate a minute or two to sort of wrap up and say anything they'd like to say to those of you who are here and to the commission. I would remind you that all questions asked of the candidates should pertain to their position, what they're applying for with the city, and there should not be questions regarding family or religion or any of those kinds of questions. So I'm sure everybody knows that, but just a friendly reminder. So at this time, Lieutenant Blaylock, I believe we're ready for the first candidate. The first applicant that we're going to be interviewing is Mr. Tim Bennett. He is from Madison, Florida.
Taking the slow train, I guess. Like suspense.
Hello, Mr. Bennett. If you would just come to the podium. What I'd like to do, Mr. Bennett, is give you an opportunity, just a minute or so, to introduce yourself to the public, and then at that time we'll give the commission board members a chance to ask any questions they might have overlooked, and then after that we'll allow the public to ask any questions they would like to ask. Can we turn the podium so he's facing the public, or do you want to, any way you want to turn it, you may.
Maybe this way.
Sure,
This way.
sure.
Thank you.
Well, are you having a problem? Is that good? Okay.
I'm good to go. A little bit about me. Raised in Graceville, Florida, which is north of here, about 60 miles. Went to high school there, and as did my wife. We were childhood sweethearts. After high school, 20 years in the Marine Corps, retired in '97. Learned how to lead and follow in the Marine Corps. Went from there into the public sector. Before I got there, I worked a while with the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce. We learned to spell hurricane real well there on Hilton Head, which is a coastal island in the Atlantic. From there, I became assistant town manager at Bluffton, South Carolina. The town grew from 1 square mile and 900 people to 50 square miles, and today's 15,000 people. It was an honor to be able to participate there in trying to find ways to handle that growth for that municipality. Also went from there and became a county administrator in Allendale County, South Carolina, and had all the usual county agencies overseen by me. The jail, EMS, E911, emergency management, the full gamut of county offices. From there, I got a chance to come home to Florida. Madison came open. Madison, Florida. That's where I'm presently the city manager in Madison, Florida. I've been there for 5 years. As I've told the commissioners tonight, in the interviews today, I feel guilty being here tonight because I love my people, and we've built a good team. At Madison, that's a full-service city, as this city is. We do, of course, I oversee finance and budgeting, fire, police, public works, which includes roads, potholes, sidewalks, cemeteries, across the board. And also oversee sanitation, water, wastewater, natural gas, community development, and, of course, purchasing. I came here today to apply for this job because I still want to grow professionally. This presents a good opportunity in a portion of the state that I love because my family used to travel through Lynn Haven many, many years ago en route to Panama City Beach. In those days, I don't know if it still exists, but St. Andrews Park. And of course, in those days, we hit the Miracle Strip a little bit. That was quite exciting. But we have some family investment here in the area, and I wanted to come back and be a part of the area. So that's why I'm here tonight.
Thank you. And Mr. Bennett, before we go to the commission's questions and the audience questions, if you don't mind, what I'd like to do, I feel like it's a little awkward the way you're having to stand and talk back and forth, so I'm just going to hand you my microphone,
Okay.
and that way you'll be able to adjust, and then when people have questions to ask you, they can use that microphone. Is that okay with you?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Either end? Or?
We can start with Commissioner Friend. Do you have a question you'd like to ask?
Yes, ma'am. Well, First, I'd like, if we have an opportunity, I'd like to take the opportunity, I should say, to how much we appreciate you, your interest in Lynn Haven. I'll use this time so I don't have to repeat it over and over. I think I told each candidate how much I appreciate the current team that we have in Lynn Haven, including the commission, city manager, and the employees. I think it speaks very highly of that team to have applicants such as yourself, you know, to seek out a position with Lynn Haven. So I want to take the opportunity to say thank you, not only to you for coming and applying, but also to the team for doing such a good job to attract such a talent as yourself. So yeah, I think we covered a lot, but I would just, I know one of the questions I asked you today was, how did you describe your leadership style? So the flip side of that would be, how do you think your employees would describe your leadership style?
I believe, this is on, y'all can hear me okay. I believe the employees would describe me as not being a micromanager. I think they would describe me as giving them room to excel and grow and prosper in their jobs. I think they would say that I look for them to step out and take chances, and if those chances work out, it's good for the city, and it's good for them. And if they fail at that chance, they learn from it and do better the next time. If they excel at that chance, the city is much better off for it. My leadership style is not hammer-fisted. We had spoken a little bit about that with one of the commissioners this morning. I do not believe in a zero-defect mentality. We don't want to stare over our employees' shoulders and put a micromanagement on them. I want them to reach out and take chances for the good of the city. If we have to drop back and adjust after something might go wrong, then we will do so and seek another avenue.
Thank you very much. And just one more. I would ask, if you can, put some type of priority on the different areas of the city. So, of course, we talked about the budget today, staffing and management, public works, residents, user fees, taxes, infrastructure, leisure services. Just give us an overall view of, you know, how you feel you would put priorities on those, or your attention would be focused on one area.
Our priorities where I presently work, we set those priorities about a year ago, and they really would reflect a lot of your priorities here. Number one on that priority list they created, the City Commission, number one is fiscal sustainability and accountability. Also, public safety, which is our fire and police and fire marshal. Public infrastructure, which is things like stormwater management, installation proactively and reactively of water and wastewater and natural gas infrastructure, which is real important for us. Those are our enterprise funds. We must invest in them, and sometimes we don't proactively do enough of that. Code enforcement has been kicked up a notch in Madison in the past 2 or 3 months because it's become a priority of the City Commission. We have 50 cases on the books. We've resolved maybe a quarter of them. We found that if you ask them to correct something, they will correct it. It might take 2 or 3 times, but we found a lot of cooperation out there. It's beautification of the city. We're attacking all sides coming into the city, helping to make it look better, and then filling in the blanks in the middle of abandoned vehicles, dilapidated buildings, overgrown yards, and things of that nature.
Right.
I think a lot of that reflects what I heard today. But those are the priorities that we're underway with in Madison.
Wow, great. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Commissioner Barnes?
Yes. First of all, I just want to say thank you for coming to Lynn Haven, taking time out of your schedule to interview for this position. As you know, as a city administrator, a city manager, you know this is a very important position. And, of course, we want to make sure that we make the right choice. And in our discussions today, we had great conversation. And so I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions I want to ask. Number one, what experience have you had in training or motivating employees?
Training, of course, was top priority in the military, constantly training there. We, along with safety and training and citizen support and cooperation with our partners in the community, and in other words, collaboration, training and safety have always been, and citizen support has always been tops on my priority list. Training, we believe we will invest money in our employees by training them. Even in times of tight budgets, we still need to invest money to train our personnel, whether it's maintaining or inspecting backflow prevention devices. We send them to Gainesville for training on that. Whether it's sending them to achieve their Class C wastewater or water operations license, we train them there. The police department, who we are investing a lot of funds in now, we send them to training for conducting investigations, training with our new canine dog that we have, and but training across the board is one of my top priorities, along with safety and fiscal management.
Okay. My next question is, in budgets that you have prepared, how do you communicate the effectiveness of service delivery?
As I had the opportunity with most of you today, we consolidate and communicate our task being accomplished. And the budget is the roadmap as to what we do on our daily jobs. The budget is our financial roadmap. But 3 or 4 or 5 times a month, I send out an operations report to our city commission. That serves as a management document for me, also as a tool to inform them as to what is going on. And also, I want them to know what I know. I don't want any surprises for the commissioners to have to endure. Along with that, I do a personnel update 2 to 3 times a month. That goes to the commissioners, no one else. But on personnel issues, even though our charter says the city manager is in charge of personnel, I want you to know what I know, negative and positive, so that when you get a phone call pertaining to that situation, you'll have the information to put it into perspective and to then call me back and say what's going on. So those operations report, those personnel reports, they reflect what is in the budget, because the budget is our roadmap. If we're paving this road today, or if we're fixing this stormwater drain tomorrow, or we're doing this, we're doing that, you're going to know about it from me. And again, that's a management tool in meeting the tasks set forth in the budget. And we meet with our department heads. It's a daily thing, if not weekly thing. We have weekly department head meetings where we go over the tasks coming up. So those are management tools.
Okay. And my last question is, what challenges are you looking for in the city manager's position?
As I said earlier, I want to grow professionally. Lynn Haven presents a larger city to me. Granted, Madison is 3,000 people, but we're very aggressive in Madison, and I would be the same way here in pursuing grants, very aggressive in pursuing grants to leverage the funds and the funds we have in the enterprise funds, and to leverage the money we have in the general fund. We're very aggressive in pursuing technology. In our police department, body cams, new laptops for the cruisers, new server, new software, USA law enforcement software. All of that is being invested into the police department as far as technology. In our wastewater department, we now have SCADA, which is telemetry, which will notify us of problems at our 24 lift stations in the city of Madison. Additionally, our technology at natural gas and water departments. About a month ago, we completed installation of remotely read water meters. We don't have to go to each meter anymore. That's phase one in the first TIF that we have. We have 2 TIFs now. Our first TIF is 24 blocks, and we're investing money from that TIF to make things happen. But technology-wise, those remotely read readers were paid for by the TIF, as part of the CRA, and is an example of the kind of things we're investing in technology-wise.
Well, thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate it. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
I don't have any questions, but I also wanted to thank you for coming. I know you had a drive, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Russell, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. And, really good conversation with you today, and I appreciate your time and driving up here and everything. The only question I would have is, assuming the commission decides to hire you, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years from now?
Alive and working here at Lynn Haven. I have fire in the belly. I've got the same work ethic that I've had in the past 40 to 50 years of working in some capacity. I wake up in the morning ready to go to work and eager to get there. And as I've said earlier today, if I'm a little down when I get there, all I need is to walk into City Hall and feed off the energy of the 6 or 7 other people in City Hall. I love my job. I intend to work until possibly you call EMS to my office there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I, too, Mr. Bennett, would like to thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak with us face-to-face today and have our conversations. And I just have one question after our conversations today. What do you feel, and this is for the benefit of everyone in the room, really, what do you feel is the greatest skill or experience that you will bring to Lynn Haven to help us achieve some of the goals that we talked about today? Not to exclude any, but infrastructure, flooding, stormwater, employee relations, improved technology for the city, budget, grants, parks, recreation, economic development, and safety and emergency preparedness. With all those goals, and we had quite extensive conversation, what is the skill or talent that you feel that you can bring to Lynn Haven to help us with that?
City manager works for the city commission. City manager implements the policy of the commission. The employees who work for the city manager will hear from me as to what the city commissioners say are your priorities. We then form plans to implement those. If you've got the priorities up here, you take the steps to get there. Those who are not quite eager to implement those steps, we will work with them and try to bring them around. And if they're stuck in a rut and do not desire to move forward with the priorities of the city commission, we look into ways of motivating them through some disciplinary action or sitting them down and finding out what's the problem. Why are you not on board with this? I don't know if y'all have set a priority list. You probably have. But those are our marching orders. And once I hear those from you, we put them into action, and we discuss the steps to get there. And we phase it in if we have to. Many things can't happen overnight, but you got to have a phased program, and you got to have money in the budget to do it. And the budget becomes a roadmap to accomplish your priorities and your policies.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'll just let Mr. Bennett turn and face the public, and if you, the public, any of you have a question that you'd like to ask Mr. Bennett, if you would approach the podium and introduce yourself, state your name and address, and ask your question. Anyone? Yes, please. And Mr. Bennett, you can hold on to that microphone, Mr. Bennett, and he'll have that one at the podium, okay? Thank you so much.
Good evening, Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. You came from an occupation. You are a city manager now.
Yes, sir. 5 years at the city of Madison.
Madison. Is Madison run a city-managed government, or is it commissioner government?
It's the same form as here.
Here.
Commissioner
Okay.
and manager.
Okay. Do you have a city clerk?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Then you don't have the same form of government that we have here. Lynn Haven works at it, marches at its own drum here. It does its own rules. That's a quote, okay? So it's a little different here. My question to you in the bulk is the complexity of this government here. We do not have a city clerk. He is the city manager. We do not have a budget and fiscal officer. He is the city manager. The city manager hires and fires everybody here, is in charge of the police, the fire department, and everything. I don't know what your contract's going to read, but are you aware of this, and are you going to accept that? And there's a few more that goes along with that, too.
Okay. Was not aware of no city clerk. Was aware that Joel is the CFO, basically, here. I'm very much into the budget and hesitate not 1 second to have that role. Concerning the city clerk, I've been spoiled by a city clerk in Madison that's been there probably 20 or 25 years. She is the heart and soul and the glue that keeps that city hall together. She motivates me in the morning. But I'm ready to take on whatever role is needed to be taken on here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Does anyone else have a question you'd like to bring forward for Mr. Bennett? Mr. Bennett, it appears that they are finished with you, and we certainly appreciate you for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to say that this is hard work interviewing, and I appreciate y'all's service in doing this today. I know it's been a long day for you, and I've enjoyed it. It's been an honor coming back to Lynn Haven after all these years and resurrecting these good memories. And whether or not you choose me, I appreciate the opportunity. It was great coming back to Lynn Haven, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much. Okay, I believe we're ready for the next applicant, Lieutenant Blaylock. The next applicant will be Mr. Brian Davis. Brian Davis. Good afternoon, Mr. Davis. I'm going to pass you this microphone, and what we did for the last applicant, if you would just come to the front and you can address both the commission and the public and take a minute or two and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then the commission will have possibly some questions for you, and then after that the public, okay? Wherever you're comfortable standing, you're fine.
This way I can see everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I'm Brian Davis. I do recognize several people in the room. For those of you that I don't know, I've lived in Lynn Haven now for 14 years. Moved here in 2003. My wife and I actually published the Lynn Haven Leisure, which is our local newspaper. We also started one out on the beach recently, which is the Gulf Coast Gazette. We also, from a business standpoint, own the Supercuts hair cutting salons here in Lynn Haven, as well as some other locations. And I'm happy to be here today. This process of having a chance to meet with each of the commissioners today has been, to me, very rewarding. I always like to learn new things, and I felt like in talking with each person today, I gained a lot through that process itself. So I look forward to answering your questions that you have, and I'll end with that.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. At this time, Commissioner Friend, do you have questions for Mr. Davis?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Davis, again, thank you very much for your interest in the position, and we take this opportunity to tell you how much we appreciate the Ledger and the service that you do to our community through that communication.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things. how would you relate your past experience to the city manager's experience? How can you translate some of that past experience that you've had and currently have as a business owner into a city manager style or position?
This is an area, is it appropriate for me to stand here, or would you like me at the podium?
You're fine.
Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is an area where, coming into today, if you would ask me that question before our dialogues, I kind of had a sense for it, but I have even a better understanding now. Within the city itself, we have a lot of different types of initiatives that we need to take care of on a daily basis, but also some that are longer term. Some people might call these projects. That's pretty much the nature of my whole career, is working with different organizations and across organizations to accomplish objectives, shared objectives. So the alignment between what we need to do from a city standpoint lines up very well with what I've had a chance to do for the last 35 years and what I continue to do in our local businesses. So the key is, and I think I've talked to several folks today, the key is when we have an initiative is that all the right people get involved in what needs to be accomplished, that we have a chance to understand what everybody's collective view or collective perspective is, so that ultimately we know what we want to achieve and we all know the steps that we need to take to get there, and everybody understands as we progress exactly where we're at and how much further we have to go. That's really the effective way to lead a very large project or an initiative for a city, so that everybody feels like they had a chance to engage at the level that they can and contribute at the level that they want to.
Great, thank you, sir. And another question for you would be, how do you see then the role of city manager in our organizational chart?
This is another area where I think, is that too loud now? Where I think I understand it better now through this learning process than even when I came into today. When you think of the org chart part, we've discussed a little bit the role of the city manager. Somewhat, if you look at the private sector, would be somewhat the CEO role that works very closely with the board, which would be the commission, in support of ultimately the citizens. Because each of the commission members is really that direct link to all of the folks that we serve within Lynn Haven. So there are many similarities between the private sector and how we're set up organizationally here. To me, that's very exciting. I didn't understand some of those connections as well this morning. I definitely do now, and I see a lot of synergies.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much. Mayor, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Davis, first of all, thank you for coming out today and being an applicant for this position. We had, again, great conversation, and so there's a few more questions I want to follow up with you if you don't mind.
Okay.
The first question is, what experience have you had in training or motivating employees?
In the area of training, let's look at the corporate side first. One thing, let's look at training. They're two different things. Sometimes they do intertwine, but they are distinct. Training in itself, I've had a chance to actually develop training curriculums, for employees, a lot of times using technology, to facilitate. Some people in the organizations that I've worked with were not always local. Sometimes people would be local, but sometimes people would work at different sites, so we had to figure out how to integrate everybody together, especially when you're working across state boundaries. So I've had a chance to do that. As far as motivating people, one thing that I've always found, whether it's employees that are working for me or whether it's sometimes even inspiring colleagues that are more peers, those types of things, one approach that I really like to use a lot is, again, to listen and understand the different perspectives of all the different people involved, because everybody's voice is important. It doesn't mean that everybody has to agree with each other, but it's important to understand the collective view of where we want to get to and inspire people towards those ends. That's so often you hear about sometimes projects or initiatives that fail, And often it's because there's not a clear endpoint defined, and also it was maybe decided by one person versus having a chance for everybody to have a voice into it. So I think that's very important.
My next question is, in budgets that you have prepared, how do you communicate the effectiveness of service delivery?
One thing, budgets and performance metrics, they're not the same thing, but they need to coexist. I mean, primarily from a budget standpoint, you need to put it in place, but then you need to also define within the budget and within the overall performance area, what are the key performance indicators that you want to track? And some may be financial, but some of them may be, for example, from a service standpoint, if you have certain tickets or concerns that come in from the community about issues that need to be addressed, you need to be able to track how long it takes to maybe respond to those, to make sure that over time you're trending towards being more responsive over time. So metrics, some are going to be financial, but some are actually going to be more service related. Response time, that also allows you, by tracking those key performance indicators, to track trends and patterns, so that if you're starting to see something repeat over time, then you know that you have a systemic issue that actually needs to become a project versus something that you only solve the symptom of.
Okay. And my last question, what challenges are you looking for in the city manager's position?
The challenges, that's an interesting question. One thing that's always important to me in any role, and it's very important in this role, is I want to have a chance to continue to learn. I've always told folks, and it's something that I believe in, it's always important to continue to recognize that you may know a certain amount of information, but there's always opportunity to improve and to learn new things. I think this role would be very exciting. There are many things in this role that I've had a chance to do before, but there are also some things that I'm looking forward to learning a lot more. And in learning, it's not just reading about it and learning, it's also learning from the commission, it's learning from working with the citizens. That's how I'm going to strengthen myself.
That concludes my question.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
I would just like to say, Mr. Davis, thank you for coming out. And I really enjoyed our talk today, and I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you.
Davis, I'd like to turn my mic on. I'd also like to thank you for coming out today, and I enjoyed our interview, and I think you hit most of the points that I needed to discuss with you during our interview. The only last question I would have would be about longevity with your job. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years, assuming the City of Commission decides to hire you?
Where do I see myself in 3 to 5 years? Doing a very good job as the city manager, working with this commission. I mean, this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm excited about. I think the timing, I mentioned to a couple folks as we talked today, Lynn Haven has accomplished a lot over the last 20 years and is just getting better and better. The timing is perfect to have a chance to participate in this role and actually being able to see some of the different things that we have that are kind of on the horizon for us come to fruition, and actually being part of that. That to me is exciting. So, and I think that the fact that we have businesses here, and I have 5 of my 6 kids here within Bay County, kind of speaks to the fact that we pretty much love it here, and we look forward to being here long term.
Thank you. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you. And I just have one more question. After our conversation today, we talked about many of our goals and some of our issues in the city that we're working with on a daily basis. Infrastructure, the flooding, the stormwater, employee relations, employee morale, improved technology for the city, budgeting, grants, parks, recreation, economic development, safety, emergency preparedness. We talked about so many things, and so my question is, after this, what do you feel is the greatest skill or experience that you can bring to Lynn Haven to help us with all of these topics and goals?
What you just described as all these different things that need to happen is normally what I am faced with when I go into large companies to do consulting work. When you take a look at the long list, it's somewhat mind-bending if you think about it. The key thing that I would want to do as first steps on all of those items is really isolate exactly where we're at on each one in their current state, and then start really, and then I work with the commission on prioritization of where to focus in what order, that type of thing, and then build the plans to execute. Without taking those steps, it can become very overwhelming. The other thing at the same time is that we have to recognize that many of those things have some strategic needs, of course, but then also there's some tactical or immediate needs that need to be addressed. So I think we need to plan on the ability to deal with immediate issues in a triage mode, at the same time making progress strategically on each of those line items.
Thank you very much. At this time, we would like to offer an opportunity for the public to ask questions of Mr. Davis. And Mr. Davis, what they will do, if you'll just maybe stay in the same location you are, and then if anyone has a question, they can approach the podium and ask you directly, okay?
That sounds good.
Anyone from the public? I think they were fully informed, apparently, from all that you said. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you coming again.
Thank you very much.
You can return that to me. Our next candidate is going to be Mr. Dale Walker. Welcome, Mr. Walker. I know it's been a long day for everyone. I'm going to pass you this microphone. And if you'd like to maybe just stand right over there so that you can see the public and the board. And we wanted to give you a minute or two just to introduce yourself to the public and say anything that you'd like to say about yourself, and then we'll start with our questions.
Sure. My name is Dale Walker. I'm the county manager at Macon-Bibb County in Georgia. It's a community in central Georgia, just south of Atlanta. It's probably about 160,000 people, the fourth largest city in Georgia. It's a unique area because it's a city and a county. The state legislature allowed us to be both. We started out with 2,100 employees. We got about 1,800 now. So I decided after 6 years I was going to retire, and I did. And I decided I can go any place I want to go. So I am. I applied here. hopefully, near water, near good people, and a good operation. So I've been around. I've worked in Michigan as the chief financial officer for a city and a deputy city manager. Worked there for 30 years, retired from there. Went to Washington, D.C., and thought, well, I've left utopia and going to the other side of the spectrum. And sure enough, it's a fun place to work, but it's a challenging place. Went on down to Suffolk, Virginia, was the chief financial officer there, and then went on down to Macon, Georgia as a chief financial officer, then became the city manager, and then became the county manager. We consolidated in 2014, the city and the county. So that created the challenge, and that's the challenge I have and I've lived with, so.
Thank you so much. And at this time, we'll start with Commissioner Friend to see if there are any additional questions for you from the board. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Walker, again. It's good to see you again. Thanks for applying for this position.
My pleasure.
You certainly have a great background and experience in local government, and again, I think it's a testimony to Lynn Haven for you to recognize that and want to be a part of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions. We talked about today your leadership style. On the flip side of that, how do you feel like your employees would describe your leadership style?
I think my employees appreciate the style. I'm open and honest with them, and they do well. They understand that. They do poorly, and they also understand that. So I certainly let them know one way or the other.
Thank you. And if you had to put a priority on certain areas of the city, budget, staffing, public works, infrastructure, flooding, residents, leisure services, some of the other departments, how would you put some of those in priority? And you don't have to put all of them in priority, but just top 2 or 3 or something.
Well, coming from a finance background, I would say budgeting and accounting are key, because once you know where you are financially and where you want to go financially, you can put the other pieces together. And those are all important pieces. You can't run a government and have services without them, but you also need to know financially and be fiscally sound where you're at.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes?
Okay. Mr. Walker, thank you again for coming to Lynn Haven and interviewing for this position.
Thank you.
I have just a few questions to ask.
Good.
So we're going to continue on some of the stuff that we talked about earlier.
Good.
My first question is, what experience have you had in training or motivating employees?
Well, I've had quite a bit, having done this for a number of years. I pride myself in trying to find those employees that want to go into city management and mentor those. And I've fortunately have got about 10 that are out actively being city managers. And I love to teach. One of the things, I've been an adjunct professor before, taught accounting and economics, but one of the things that I do with some of my senior staff, because oftentimes when we get out of college, we forget to read and to keep learning and to keep doing things. So I usually will take a book, a business book, and we'll go through that, whatever that is, and we'll just sit and talk. And it really builds a good relationship and a good rapport. So some naysayers will say, well, that's just a book club. Well, that's how you learn.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, and I know you are a numbers person.
Yes, sir.
In budgets that you have prepared, how do you communicate the effectiveness of service delivery?
Well, you have performance measurements. You have that built in, and you build those so that you know when you deliver a service that you're performing at peak efficiency. So you'll see that in a budget. You'll see that historically, and you'll see that if there's improvements, it should be reflected, not only in the budget, but in the audit or the CAFR as you progress along.
Okay. And my last question is, what challenges are you looking for in the city manager's position?
Wow, that's a good question. What challenges? Well, what I'm looking for is a commission that is working together as a team with the administration, and with that, you can plow forward in anything. So I know that there are some opportunities facing us with stormwater. We know that because you're by a big body of water, that you'll have more water than most people. So you've also got some personnel, and you got budget issues. So all of those are challenges that I've seen, heard, and felt, dealt with. So I don't think there's a lot of challenges that I won't have seen or felt.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
I would like to thank you also for coming out. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you.
And you answered all my questions earlier, so I don't have any for you tonight.
Oh, I like those questions.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Russell?
Mr. Walker, I want to thank you also for coming out and meeting with us. And our interview today went really well, and I think you answered everything that I needed to know. But I'll ask you the same question I asked the other ones. Longevity-wise, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
Here.
That's what I want to hear. Thank you very much.
That's all I got.
Thank you. And Mr. Walker, I just have one sort of a follow-up question. We talked about many issues today in Lynn Haven, our infrastructure, our flooding, our stormwater, employee relations, employee morale, improved technology possibilities for the city, budgeting, grants, parks, recreation, economic development, safety, emergency preparedness. And so what I'd like to ask so that everyone, you could share with all of us is, what do you feel is the greatest skill or experience that you would bring to Lynn Haven to help us to meet our goals?
Well, my expertise is accounting, budgeting, finance, debt management, personnel. I can do any of that anytime you want. I do HR. I've done all of that. I've done IT. I think I've done most every position that a city or county organization has. So I don't think anybody can blow smoke at me, but there's always a first time.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to open up questions to the public, and they'll be coming to the podium here to address you if they have questions. Is there anyone who has a question for Mr. Walker?
Sure.
Looks like they see all the information, or rather they've heard all the information. So thank you so much, Mr. Walker. We wish you safe travels, and thank you so much for coming.
Appreciate the time. Appreciate the opportunity to meet each of you. It was fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
The next candidate that we'll be interviewing is Mr. Michael White. Good afternoon, Mr. Walker. I have a microphone for you up here, and what we've been doing is just asking each person to maybe stand a little bit over to that direction, and that way you can see the public and us at the same time. We've allowed each applicant to have a 1 to 2 minute introduction. Just tell us a little bit about yourself so the public can get to know you, and then the commission and the public may have questions for you. Thank you.
Is this on?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Michael White. I'm a resident of Bay County. Been in Bay County since 1998. Raised my son here.
Currently married to Amy back there in the back. We are raising two girls, 13 and 15. I was a former CEO of Gulf Coast Electric Cooperative. For the last 7 years, I've been with the company, was with the company almost 20 years. So I'm very familiar with the area, very familiar with a lot of the opportunities the city of Lynn Haven has to offer.
Thank you. Commissioner Friend, do you have questions for Mr. White? I'm sorry, I couldn't
Yes,
get it
ma'am.
out. It's been
It's
a long
okay.
day.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Mr. White, thank you so much for your interest, again, in Lynn Haven. And I'll just start off with that. Why Lynn Haven? Obviously, looking over your resume and knowing you a little well as well, you obviously have the experience, and I can see where a co-op is very similar to a municipality, but why Lynn Haven? What's drawing you?
Probably a better question is why not?
Yeah.
Lynn Haven is a very vibrant community in Bay County. It's growing, very fast-paced rate. I like the opportunity to be part of that. And I think most people like to be part of something good, and I think the city of Lynn Haven has a lot to offer.
Right. Okay, thank you. So thinking of your past experience, and we talked a little bit in the interview today, where you started with the co-op, and obviously where you ended up as the CEO of a very well-ran co-op. But how would you take that experience and put it into a municipality?
I think it'd be a very easy transition for myself due to the fact that I've always worked for nonprofits. The city is a nonprofit, the cooperative is a nonprofit. I believe in serving people, and that's the motto that I live by each day. I think if you do not have the willingness to serve people, these type of positions aren't for you. And I think I could transcend a lot of the experience, the contacts, the just knowing the area well to the city position.
Right. Thank you. And just maybe one more. We talked a little bit about leadership, the type of leadership that you have. How would you say your employees would see your leadership style?
I would hope that they would think, I try to manage by a transformational leadership style, where I try to talk with all employees, figure out what's going on, figure out what needs to be changed. And then I try to create a vision from that. By creating a vision, I'm able to create a pathway for everybody to succeed. So I want from the bottom to the top to be involved.
Great. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you,
Sure.
ma'am.
Commissioner Barnes?
Yes, Mr. White, first of all, thank you for coming and applying for this position. Obviously, you have a lot of experience in dealing with employees and just dealing with the co-op and things of that nature. So my first question to you is, what experience have you had in training or motivating employees?
Similar to a lot of situations I understand the city is going through. The co-op, when I took over, we had a lot of attrition due to people retiring. So there's a lot of institutional knowledge being lost. So I was able to harness some of that education from those employees that are last few days or months, years left at the co-op, as well as bring in new technology that was able to transcend the whole company forward, where it didn't matter all the time, all the institutional knowledge you had, the system could do a lot of the work for you.
Okay. My next question is, in budgets that you have prepared, how do you communicate the effectiveness of service delivery?
I'm from the old school that every component that you have in the budget needs to stand on its own. Between different budgets, a lot of sharing. So, the water, wastewater needs to stand on its own, as well as the police department, fire department. So I believe that, by working hard, balancing the budget, realizing that, you don't have a blank check all the time to go out and buy everything you need. You may need to sacrifice, just like the citizens of Lynn Haven do every day. sacrifice.
Okay. And my last question is, what challenges are you looking for in the city manager's position?
I'm looking for something to challenge me to grow more professionally. I appreciate the comments the two of you have made about my resume. I do have a lot of education. I do have a lot of experience in the co-op and been blessed to dabble in a lot of different things. However, this would be a new avenue for me, learning other components of business. And that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
I enjoyed our conversation today.
I did too.
I appreciate you coming out, and I don't have any more questions.
Okay, thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Commissioner Russell?
Mr. White, I also appreciate you coming out today, and I enjoyed our conversation today. I have asked each of the candidates so far, about longevity on the job. I'm going to forego that with you because I see you've got 20-plus years with your last company, so I don't think you're going to be somebody that's looking for a job to move on. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I have just one other question. We had quite an extensive conversation today about some of the different facets in Lynn Haven, including infrastructure, flooding, stormwater, employee relations, morale, the improved technology needed in the city, budgeting, grants, parks, recreation, economic development, safety, emergency procedures. And so in thinking of all those facets of our city government, what do you feel is the greatest skill or experience or talent that you will bring to Lynn Haven to help us to manage all of this multifaceted information?
Being in a position I was at the cooperative and being department heads and, of course, assistant general manager and then CEO, I was able to touch a lot of different departments. So the diverse background I have in everyday, today activities, the cooperative budget was twice the size of the budget here. Served 6 counties. So I'm used to that. I'm used to working with 9 board members versus 5. So there's a lot of things that will transcend across from my previous experience to here. But I do bring, I think, culturally wise, safety is number one with me, no matter what you're doing. But also work with the employees and watch them progress through the organization. That's the favorite thing I see.
Thank you so much. At this time, if you would, the public might have a question or two for you. If anyone would like to ask Mr. White a question, if you would approach the podium at this time. And it appears no one has a question for you. So thank you so much for the time you spent talking with us today, and that concludes our interview.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to move to our distance interviews. We're going to be interviewing the last 3 candidates through telephone and Skype interviews. The first of these will be Ms. Pamela Hiller, and she'll be interviewing with us by telephone. And so please let us know when we're ready to proceed. Hello, Ms. Hiller, this is Mayor Anderson. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Perfect. We're going to start your interview at this time. We are in the chambers, and we do have an audience from the public and the city staff, as well as the commission. And at this time, we'd just like to offer you an opportunity of 1 or 2 minutes to talk about yourself and just tell us, tell the audience and the commission anything that you'd like us to know about you and why you're applying for the position, okay? Thank you so much. And at this time, Ms. Hiller, each of the commissioners may have or may not have a question for you, but I'm going to start with Commissioner Friend. At any time, if you can't hear a question, please let me know, okay? Commissioner Friend.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Ms. Hiller. First and foremost, as I told you earlier, thank you so much for your service to our country. We greatly appreciate the sacrifices that you and your family have made, and I hope you're enjoying your time with your mother. Yes, ma'am. Just real quick, and I think we went over this today, but for the public, how would you correlate your past job and your past experience, not only in the military and any education that you have, how would you translate that over to the role as city manager?
Well, there are many parallels with the city manager position as it's so long with the military. Which basically, I already touched on public service as first and foremost. What interested me in the job itself is what pretty much what I touched on. The fact that it was my education. I went to school for my bachelor's and my master's degree in management. But when I received my master's degree, I specialized specifically in public administration. And of course, there are things that had to do with the courses that we took, had to go heavily in public administration, personnel, strategic planning, grant management writing, those types of things. I think that the number of personnel that I supervise and the personnel that I have in the military also correlate well with the city manager position. We have to do things that are typical of any, whether it's military or civilian, that are typical of any management position, which would be training, hiring, firing, promotions, those types of things. So I think those are probably the highlights of what would correlate well with the city manager position.
Great, thank you, ma'am. And also, we talked about leadership style. How the flip side of that is, how do you think that your employees would describe your leadership style?
I think that they would, some of the highlights of what they might say is that I was a good listener, that I cared about the individuals and the individual, and not just as a number or per se or as strictly an employee, that I tried to take the whole person from them into account. There were discussions that we made, decisions that we made, whether they be necessarily positive or negative. They would say that
Yes, we are. Yes, ma'am.
They would say that I wasn't willing to ask them to do anything, that I wouldn't be willing to step in and do it myself. They would say that I was there to have their back and to help promote them into a successful career.
Great, thank you, ma'am. And just one last question. In your own words, how do you see the role of, we talked a little bit about our municipality and our charter structure. In your own words, how would you describe the role of a city manager?
and with the staff. So they basically play that critical role of making sure that all of that is intertwined and addressed. Citizens' concerns, admission concerns, and the staff concerns are all addressed.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, and we really appreciate your time and taking time out of the day with your mother to interview today. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mayor.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hiller, at this time, Commissioner Barnes may have a question for you.
Hello, Ms. Hill. How are you this afternoon?
I'm fine.
Great. First of all, I just want to say thank you for applying for this position. And I do want to echo Commissioner Friend's opening statement by saying that, again, thank you for your service to our country, the 22 and a half years that you spent. We really do appreciate it, and thank you so much. My first question that I have is, what experience have you had in training or motivating employees?
Well, I'm trying to have you in that whole area on supervisor, I actually trained in terms of not a company as I did on the unit, you know. So that probably was about 6 years in my career. So I would say that I had 15 plus years for training and motivating employees. A lot of the training that we did, of course, was direct stuff. So the plans are already made up and the outcomes are already made up. But it was still inherent upon the NGO to figure out how that training was going to take place as far as where, when, how, and how many people are going to be trained. So I've got about 15 plus years, I would say. Including when I did college, though, I was also. That was a little easier. There were only 6 people there that needed the training. When I was in the military technology, there were over 30 to 40 medical personnel that I was directly responsible for training. Motivating, I would say, it's pretty much the same numbers. Numbers don't change. But as far as I guess you're really asking how was I motivating, that's pretty much the question.
Well, the question was, what experience have you had in training or motivating employees?
Oh, okay. That would be through mainly in the military. A lot of the training that we did and motivating came through our special military engagement, which I had to do along with that. And they basically give you, how to train an individual, we mentioned before, as far as making sure that you have your information outcome to figure out what to do best, training on where location of the training is going to be. As far as motivating, you need to understand the individual and figure out what motivates them. And that's going to vary from person to person.
Okay. My next question is, in budgets that you have prepared, how do you communicate the effectiveness of service delivery?
We basically had, for, I'm talking about military, so that you're talking about a medical background. We would have surveys to ask the clients of how they perceive to be care that they were given. We also had metrics that we had to use. That wasn't geared more towards the service aspect, because in that respect, that's kind of subjective. But the objective data that we would collect would be in metrics as far as numbers and percentages. But subjectively, we would poll or survey our clients, and it's basically the typical, 0 to 10, how they felt their care was. And the questions that would be on those surveys would vary. Typical surveys would be, how many personnel that you came into contact with, how do you rate the care that you received, were they courteous or not, those types of questions.
Okay. My last question is, what challenges are you looking for in the city manager's position?
Well, the challenges that I anticipate for myself personally, the Florida statute, I will definitely have to become familiar with. I've had to deal with regulations and such on the local, state, and federal level, but of course that varies from state to state, and Florida statute is not something that I typically read before I go to bed, so those would be the things that I would have to brush up on. And also, my major challenges if selected for this position.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
Hello there, Ms. Hiller. I too would like to thank you for your service, and I really appreciate you applying for this position. And I do have one question for you. And of course, we talked about this earlier today. But what 3 positive traits would one of your supervisors say about you?
Well, the very first thing I would hope that they would say would be that I had integrity. That was one of the things that was drilled into me even before I joined the military, coming up as a child. This is still even by my parents. But in the military, at least in the Air Force, our motto was integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all you do. So I would hope that any supervisor that I've ever had in the past would at least include one of those 3 things. They would include integrity in there. 2 of the others would probably be as simple as it sounds, dependability. That they knew that if something needed to be done, that they could come to me, and whether I had other things going on or not, if it was urgent and they said this needs to be done, that I would do it for them, and that I would drop whatever needs I was doing, and I would work on that for them. And the third, I would say probably flexibility. That I was flexible enough to go from one area of the clinic to another area seamlessly without any interruptions here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Was that last answer flexibility? I was making sure I heard it correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Flexibility that I would be able to move from one area to the clinic to another without any interruption to care.
Thank you so much. That was Mayor Anderson.
Interruption to service.
Okay. Commissioner Russell?
Hi, Ms. Hiller, how are we doing today?
Fine, how are you?
Doing wonderful. I enjoyed our conversation earlier, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions. The only question I have left would be a concern of longevity on the job. For selfish reasons, don't want to go through this process again in the next 3 to 5 years. So where would you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
I don't anticipate moving from where I am right now. My children and grandchildren are there in the local area. I'm happy with my situation and where I'm living in Lynn Haven. And as far as retirement, I don't see that anytime within the next 10 years or so.
Perfect. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hiller, this is Mayor Anderson again, and all I wanted to ask you, just sort of to wrap up, as we talked about many areas of the city today, we talked about as the day has gone by, and I just wanted to ask you, if in thinking of infrastructure, flooding, stormwater, employee relations, morale, improved technology for the city, budgeting, grants, parks, recreation, economic development, safety, emergency preparedness. In consideration of all these multifaceted items that our city is concerned with on a day-to-day basis, what do you feel is the greatest skill or experience that you will bring to Lynn Haven if you were to accept the position to help us to achieve these goals?
I think that the greatest skill I probably have is the ability to interact with those I'm going to have to interact with, that there are department heads for each one of those areas, I'm sure. And I believe that I can interact with those individuals, and if the changes that need to be made, and I'm sure changes happen all the time, so changes in the future that need to be made, that I can listen to them, that I can work with them, and that I can make sure that the changes that are made are going to indeed be positive changes for the city, for the citizens, for the staff. And obviously, not every change is going to be perfect the first time, so that when adjustments need to be made, that I will be there to work with them to make sure that those adjustments indeed are made and that they are appropriate.
Thank you so much. And at this time, the commission has completed their questions, and I wanted to give any members of the public an opportunity to ask a question, so I'll be doing that now. Is there anyone in the public? Is there anyone in the public who would like to ask Ms. Hiller a question? And there appears to be no questions, and so at this time, we again would like to thank you for applying for the position and taking your time to interview with us today. And again, we thank you for your service to our country and hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
And we have two applicants left to interview. The next one is Mr. Ben Newhouse, and we will be chatting with him by Skype. So, gentlemen, whenever you're ready to make the call.
Hey, good afternoon. Good to see you.
Hello, Mr. Newhouse. This is Mayor Anderson. We're glad to have you as part of this interview process today, and welcome. What we're going to do now is start out and let you have a minute or two to talk. We have the public here with us as well as the media, and if you would like to say some things about yourself, your experience, anything you'd like us to know about you for 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll be asking some follow-up questions. Okay, thank you.
And been involved with community economic development for a long time. Have an undergraduate in accounting, master's in strategic leadership. I've been working with state and federal agencies for 25 years since out of college, so I do a lot of things in community development I'm very proud of, as far as parks development and trails and sidewalks, community centers, senior centers, business incubators. Have a lot of experience in grant writing. But at the end of the day, I get very excited about is helping people in the community, as well as community development. A lot of experience in those regards.
At this time, Commissioner Friend will be asking a question or two for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, good afternoon. Great. Thank you so much for your interest in Lynn Haven. With your experience, it means a great deal to us that, that you're willing to apply for this position, because obviously you see something here that you like, so we greatly appreciate that. I'm not sure if we went over this one today or not, so with your experience, have you had any land use experience in your area or in your past in any capacity? Anything to do with land? Great, thank you, sir. And just one more question. I know we talked about leadership style. How would you describe, or how do you think your employees would describe your leadership style?
I think they would say that I'm very open for any discussion. I'm open for policy. I encourage ideas and enthusiasm and energy. Certainly they know that I don't know everything, and that to make things work, that it's time, if it's a personal issue or it's an issue with the office, I think they understand my goal is for everybody to work as a team and be collectively, hopefully happy in their jobs. I see happy employees, you have productive employees, but my management style is to, it's not, I described earlier, it's kind of democratic. It's not sit around, put my feet up, or crack the whip. I like to get involved, and I like to get out from behind the desk, get out in the community. I like talking to people, having meetings, and getting a collective idea of what
Great. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate your time, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes?
Mr. Newhouse, thank you for taking an opportunity to apply for this position and showing your interest in Lynn Haven. The first question I have for you is, what experience have you had in training or motivating employees?
Most cities can learn from other cities or other counties or other agencies. So I like, there's different motivation, practices for different individuals. Not everybody is the same fit. And what I like to do is, evaluate people. I study my employees to say, I like to see what they are capable of and what they're looking for. Some people require different motivations, either extrinsic or intrinsic values. And, I can generally have a pretty good idea. I have a plan myself to figure out how we're going to be best fit in the community or in the organization.
Okay. My next question is, in budgets that you have prepared, how do you communicate the effectiveness of service delivery?
The service delivery to my employees or the community as a whole?
Either one.
Within the office, we have regular, at the City of Bergen, we have regular staff meetings with my finance manager, and we go over expenses and revenues, projected expenses, contracts, and it's very, the city also is the open forum at city council meetings. I mentioned earlier some of the other discussion is try to be as transparent as humanly possible to the staff and the city council that we have, as well as the residents. I think it's important for residents because this is taxpayer dollars that we're utilizing in the community, not private dollars and such. So I want people to be understood about how we do tariffs and loans and any other credit or anything else, that how it applies to somebody's pocketbook or their taxes or something else. So I try to be open and frankly just frank about the situation as a whole.
Okay. And my third and last question is, what challenges are you looking for in the city manager's position?
Certainly there's the external, dealing in the community, infrastructure and development, internally progressing, the ability for staff to move forward. Again, they kind of go hand in hand, but, doing community development in neighborhoods and everyone has different disciplines. There's different ways to do different things. At the end of the day, if we're enhancing the betterment of the community where people are living, I've done my job. If people are doing, good things in the office and they like working there, I've done my job. So there's different ways to look at that situation, but my challenge is if there's any betterment every day, I come in the office and say, did I make it a better process? Did I make it a better community? I've done my job, I think. So and I laid a floor plan for people around me.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Your next question will come from Commissioner Tender.
Hello, Mr. Newhouse. I really enjoyed our conversation today, and I thank you so much for coming out and applying for this position. And other than that, I really don't have any more questions. You answered them all for me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And then the next question will come from Commissioner Russell.
Mr. Newhouse, I again also want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me on the phone today. Had a good conversation, and you answered my questions very well, and I appreciate it. And at this time, I have no more questions for you as well.
Thank you for our conversation, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Newhouse. I too enjoyed our conversation, and I just wanted to follow up with only one question. We talked about many of the issues of our city and how they were maybe similar in many ways in your city: infrastructure, flooding, stormwater, employee relations, morale, how to improve technology for the city, budgeting, grants, parks, recreation, economic development, safety, and emergency preparedness. And my question is, after our conversation, what do you feel is the greatest skill, experience, or talent that you could bring to Lynn Haven to help us as we look at each of these facets of our community?
I think the greatest thing that I provide the community when I work, or federal, state, county, city level is that evaluating the efficiency and effectiveness. When I come into an organization, it may take me a few months or even a year or so, but understanding how the system works and the processes to make things even better. If you ask any of my past employers or anybody that's on my resume or references, they'll all tell you that I'm an enhancer, that I can come in and we can evaluate processes and different things and developments. I do a great amount of fundraising since I've been with the city. Almost 12 years in the city of Perkin, I've leveraged almost $7 million in private foundation funding and state grants. So I'm meticulous in my own detail, but I'm probably my own worst enemy. But I come in and get to work every day, and I like getting involved in the community. I like working with people, and I think I can make any organization think twice about who we do work with and how we can expand our resources and better our resources in the community. Like my resume indicates, have a wealth of knowledge, everything from the Appalachian Regional Commission funding, USDA, Department of Energy, energy efficiency, land and water conservation, and that's applied to projects that I've done over the last 25 years. So I'm just extremely grateful that you guys have invited me to be a part of this process and consider me for this position.
Well, thank you. We're equally grateful that you applied and that you took the time to interview with us. So at this point, I would like to offer our audience, the public, an opportunity to ask you a question or questions. So is there anyone in the public who has a question? And there appear to be none, and so we will sign off at this point, and again, we thank you for interviewing with the City of Lynn Haven.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mayor.
Thank you. Our final Skype call today will be with Jeff Wilkins. Jeff Wilkins. Hello, Mr. Wilkins. Are you able to hear me? Okay. Can we have a little more volume for Mr. Wilkins as well? I am Mayor Anderson. I talked to you earlier this morning. It seems like a long time ago now. We'd like to welcome you to our public meeting. And we would like to start out, Mr. Wilkins, by allowing you to make a 1 to 2 minute statement, just telling the commission and the public here a little about yourself. So we'll start with that.
Well, as you can see from my resume, I've worked in a few communities that have been fast growing. When I was in a town in Indiana, it was the fastest growing town in the state of Indiana. Grew tremendously in the mid-90s. And then my most recent position was Pinnacle County. It was the fastest growing county in the nation by percentage growth between 2000 and 2010. So those are the types of communities I've worked with. I've also worked with a city in Michigan that was a smaller community, but had very little or very slow growth. And we had to use just about every tool in the toolbox to try to get economic development and downtown development to occur there. So I've been in the served the public for 23 years. I've enjoyed it. When I moved from the private sector to the public sector, I always had the philosophy that the public sector should have good professional staff, just like the private sector. And try to bring as much private sector philosophy as we can to the public sector with efficiencies and serving the public.
Thank you very much. I'll start now with Commissioner Friend, who may have a question or two for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, good afternoon. It's good to talk to you again today. And start off by saying how much we appreciate your applying for this position. It really speaks a lot, I think, to Lynn Haven that someone with your resume would apply for this position. So thank you very much for your interest. Just a couple of things I know we went over, but maybe on the flip side of what we discussed about leadership style. How do you think your employees would describe your leadership style?
We describe it as a coaching, mentoring style. Always there to support them. We set out the goals during our evaluation. We try to set out the goals and work toward those goals, set timelines for those, and then re-guide them if they need to. So, I'm patient, but yet persistent, and I want to hold them accountable because we are here to serve the public, and we have a performance that we have to meet.
Great, thank you, sir. And just one more. We talked about all the different areas, and obviously with your experience, you know about all the different areas of a municipality. But what type of priority would you put on some of the different areas, like the budget, staff, public works, different areas, residents, user fees, infrastructure, flooding? Just take a couple of those, and how would you put some of those into priorities?
Well, I mean, they're all priorities. I mean, obviously, let's serve the public. We have number one, we have to have good customer service. But that's part of the process. As far as what we have to basically triage what is immediate needs right now, what is broken. So we have to meet with the department heads and guidance from the council too. What's being performed well and where we need improvements. So it's really assessing where the performance might be a little bit lacking, but working with those department heads to come up with a game plan to show improvement. Usually I would try to get input from the public, whether it be through a survey method of some sort. We create some sort of a strategic planning process to really prioritize those items that we just listed.
Great, thank you, sir. Thank you very much again for your time. We really appreciate it. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes?
Thank you. Mr. Wilkins, first of all, let me say thank you for applying for this position and expressing your interest in the city of Lynn Haven. We really do appreciate it. My first question to you is, what experience have you had in training or motivating employees?
Well, each department head or staff is hired. Obviously, you bring them on, you motivate them, you put a program together, and try to set out the initial goals for them. So they feel they know clear guidance of what they're supposed to accomplish, and then that way they're more comfortable. They know what timeline that they need to meet certain standards. So I feel that helps motivate them. Obviously, I lead by example through hard work. But with training, I'm sorry, I just locked it off the screen. What's up? That's okay. As far as training, again, it goes back to meeting the goals, meeting with the department heads of what are the goals we're trying to meet, and then what are those best practices to meet those goals. And there's a number of training, either online, through agencies or trade associations or professional associations that we would either bring in online or have the employees attend some of it. Definitely want to encourage all employees to seek as much training as they can, feel like more motivated and the morale is increased they receive.
Okay. My next question is, in budgets that you have prepared, how do you communicate the effectiveness of service delivery?
That goes back again that your budget brings food strategic plan with priorities. So we'd like to have priorities listed, and then with working with the department heads, with the council, to establish which are long-term, short-term goals, and we'd have all those activities and tasks listed in the book. So we basically show the objectives that we've got up here.
Okay. And my last question is, what challenges are you looking for in the city manager's position?
Well, I think everything you described as far as today, the challenges with growth and with the economic development, with the environment, really pulling together and working with the council, working with public department heads to try to meet those goals, those actions. That's the challenge, and obviously make the citizens happy to serve.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
Hello, Mr. Wilkins. I just want to thank you also for applying for this position. I enjoyed the conversation we had earlier today, and I don't really have any serious questions for you, but is that a Chicago Bears jersey behind you? Okay, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Russell? Excuse me, Commissioner Russell, he's having difficulty hearing you. How about now? I think we may have...
I apologize, I didn't have my microphone on. Is that better? Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that. I was just wanted to tell you thank you for talking to me today, and I think you answered most all my questions on in the interview. So I appreciate your time, and I have no more questions for you.
And I too would like to thank you for joining us today through Skype, and I just have one additional question. We talked this morning, it seems like a very long time ago now, as we said, but we talked about all the different facets of municipal government and infrastructure, the flooding and stormwater issues we have here in our city, employee relations, morale, how to improve technology in our city, budgeting and grants, parks, recreation, their importance to our citizens, economic development, and safety and emergency preparedness. So in light of all of those different facets of the government, what do you feel is the greatest skill, expertise, or talent that you could bring to Lynn Haven to help us with all of our various issues and topics?
I think I've shown through my career the collaboration partnerships that I've built. As you described, it's very broad. So we have to build those partnerships to achieve. So I've shown that in the past that I've been able to do that, and I truly do believe that we achieve more when we're working as a person. I believe that I have the skills of the council and the department heads then to set out, again, the short-term activities and tactics to meet those goals. So we look at that long list, trying to address them all at different speeds. Obviously, we necessarily be able to do it all in time, but we should be able to make progress toward every one of the goals in the near term.
Thank you so much. And at this time, we do have members of the public present, and if one of them or more of them would like to ask a question, I'm going to give them that opportunity now. So is there anyone who would like to ask a question at this time? Yes, please approach the podium. I tell you what, it might be easier for him if you use the microphone and, well, maybe not. He can see you from there.
Okay, I'll try using this microphone here. My name is Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace. And the issue that I wanted to ask about is the issue of growth. You seem to have made your career managing growth. And I want to know if you're managing the growth for growth's sake, or for the benefit of the developers and the businesses, or for the benefit of the residents?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked it. Because just because it fit in an area of growth doesn't mean it's growth for growth's sake. In fact, one item that I always I discussed for our municipality is that we typically would gauge the type or the capacity of the roads based on our well capacity or our wastewater treatment capacity, maybe our fire, our police department capacity. We didn't always look at the capacity of the school. And once you have a certain level of growth, you have to just look ultimately that our schools is actually the benefit of the public. So it goes back to again, a community planning process involving in trying to determine what the capacities are. It won't have a negative property tax.
Thank you. Were you able to understand all that he said?
I think so.
Okay. We got almost all of it, but I think we had a little bit of breakup there, but he said he did understand what you said, so I think we're good.
Where did I leave off?
Are there any other questions that anyone has? Okay, at this time, we'd like to thank you for taking your time, and we will look forward to possibly talking to you in the future, and we thank you again for the interview. Good night. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the end of the interview process and the public asking questions of the candidates and applicants as well as the board. At this time, I just wanted to sort of run a couple of possibilities by the board and see what your pleasure is, so please feel free to let me know. We can adjourn the meeting now without further statement and come back on July the 11th with a workshop preceding that commission meeting to discuss our findings and our preferences and trying to come to consensus on a candidate. Or, while everything is fresh tonight, if you would like to proceed to a point of just some discussion, seeing if we're at any point of consensus, we could do that. We could take a brief recess and come back in 15 minutes and carry on with some discussion. So please let me know if we were to move forward. However, tonight, attorney has advised me, Mr. Jackson has advised me, attorney, I'm sorry, but legal counsel has advised me that if we were to move forward tonight and we got to the point of, all of us wanting the same candidate and we arrived at a decision, that decision would be contingent upon the background checks, which have not yet been completed. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to tell me what is your pleasure.
I'll start if you'd like, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity. My process has kind of been, now that we've gotten through the interview and I know we have the background checks yet to do, I would like to meet with some of the department heads that are here tonight, and then in addition to that, I haven't called any references or anything like that, so I don't think I would be completely prepared to make a decision tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Barnes?
For me, I can go either way. I know I've studied these quite a bit, of course, listening to the candidates tonight and read through their resumes. I can go either way.
Okay.
So.
Commissioner Tender?
I personally would prefer to wait until the 11th. That's just my preference.
Commissioner Russell?
I again can go either way, but since two of the commissioners want to wait for the 11th, I can respect that wish. But I might make another suggestion that maybe we could not pick somebody, but maybe we could cull some of these other people out so we don't have to do background checks on all 7 of them. That's an option too. I don't know. That's just a suggestion.
I think we have a sort of a varied a variety of answers. So I'm going to make a suggestion, and if anyone would like to veto it, I'm certainly open to that. So I'm not deciding this for us, I'm just suggesting. Since Commissioner Friend is uncomfortable at this time without doing a little more research, and Commissioner Tender would prefer to wait, and we have 2 who are agreeable with either way, I would make the suggestion that we adjourn the meeting and that we come back together on July the 11th at 4 o'clock for a workshop, followed by a 5 o'clock commission meeting. Generally, our Tuesday, on the second Tuesday of the month, is a 4 o'clock meeting, but because this is of a very public nature and something that's, everyone would like to know about, if someone would make a motion and it gets a second and a vote, I would propose that we consider postponing until July the 11th, everyone coming back with, your preferences and seeing if we can come to consensus at a workshop at 4 o'clock, and then moving on to the meeting at 5 and giving the mayor and the city attorney the opportunity to begin negotiations with the candidate of your choice.
5 or 6, because the second meeting's a 6 usually. Oh, first meeting, I'm sorry.
Okay, anyone want to?
I so move.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? Okay, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. It's been a very long day. Thank you, the media, for coming. Thank you for all those who came and helped with the technology, and also to our law enforcement. And this meeting is now adjourned.